Thanks. I just want to say that the bridesmaids, you all look very beautiful. And groomsmen, well, and yeah, everybody else who's been involved, the catering staff, thank you all. Lapo with the photography, just fantastic to have me taking photos. So, Shell and I always wanted to have a daughter, particularly Shell. And in the last 12 months, we've gained 2 with a granddaughter on the way. And we couldn't be more excited about that. So this is a very special day, indeed. And it's special in many ways because we kind of missed out on Emery and Jasmine's wedding because of COVID. Back when they got married earlier last year, there was lockdown, and so there was, 5-6 people at their wedding. And so I'm wondering if I could ask Jasmine, could you swap places with Morgan for a moment? Come and sit beside your husband. I want to address the 4 of you just for one moment. And in doing so, I want to say a very special thank you to Eliza. It is evidence of her selflessness that on her special day, she embraced the opportunity for me to be able to speak to both of my sons and both of my daughter-in-laws. So I'll talk to, Emery and Jasmine first, but it really goes back to 2018. The helm, Harley, Emery, Lyle, Michelle. We managed to pull off our last family holiday together with the 4 of us. Went down to visit my brother and his wife, Dad and my stepmother Jeanette, down in Tasmania. And well, it turned out that we drove down there in Emery's old Commodore. It was the only vehicle that we could fit the 4 of us in. Now you have to understand that this vehicle was in the way, in the process of turning itself back into iron oxide or various pieces. But before we went to Tasmania, we were actually on our way to be staff. The 4 of us were all staff at a teen camp. And what Shell and I didn't know was that we were actually at that teen camp going to meet both of our daughter-in-laws, which was just amazing. Now, of course, we met Jasmine first. Let me see here. Yes. Now, Jasmine and Emery had done several camps together and there'd been a few crushes that had been happening over the years. For us, this was all new because we'd not met Jasmine before, and we were seeing this petite smiling beauty that seemed to be everywhere Emery went. Now, she made a paper replica of his Suzuki. So he had a Suzuki four-wheel drive as well, and gave it to him. Shell was already in love with her. Harley was just like, just marry her already. Harley came to us at the teen camp after having a long conversation on history with this girl that he just met. He was so impressed, and he told us how sexy it was to meet a girl who could talk about history. And after all of that, nothing happened. Nothing at all. Shell and I watched all this happen, and we were kind of, eager with anticipation. We loved these 2 girls, and we saw them as great potential matches, and nothing happened. So it wasn't until Arise Bible College that the first change was the first time we saw a change. It was reported to us on the grapevine that Emery was pretty excited that Jasmine would be there at the same time that he was. Now, Jasmine is sweet and quiet, but she is strong and considered in her words, incredibly creative and talented. Amongst other creative abilities, Jasmine is an amazing artist. She's in the process, and you might want to take notice of this, of starting a home business in portraiture. Does just mind-boggling paintings, so if anybody is interested. And so we're so grateful and happy that, you know, she's made our son, Emery, so happy. And we love her and adore her, and are so happy, Jasmine, to have you as our daughter. Emery is outgoing, he's frugal, he's funny, he's practical, he's great with his hands. The two of these guys make an amazing team. Shell and I always aspired to be grandparents in our 40s. Ever since we first got married, we're like, yeah, we could pull this off. And we're going to. Just. So that's pretty exciting for our whole family. And the exciting part about that is that our granddaughter is due to arrive on Shell's birthday. So we don't know whether that'll happen or not. So that would be pretty special. But it's been amazing, guys, to watch you guys making a home together and start your family. But above all, to see that you've made God the centre of your lives. And it's great just to see the family and the couple that you have become. But today is actually about Harley and Eliza. So where should we start? I should probably share a few things about Harley. Yes. Where should I start? Maps. I remember as a 3-year-old, Harley used to read the Sydney Street Directory for entertainment. Now, some of you remember back before the days of GPSs, we had this thing called the Street Directory. Look about this thing, you know, the Sydney, whatever it was, Gregory's, and he would just sit there flicking through it. And one day he comes toddling into us. He's like, I found our church in the Sydney Street Directory. And Shell and I, oh, he's figured out what the black square with the cross on it is. He's figured out that that's a church. He opens it up, and he points it like, yeah, there's our church. See, you drive up the road here, you go across the river there, through that set of lights, and that's our church. And it was our church. And I don't know how many pages there were in the old Sydney Street Directories. Harley's always loved history and reading. I remember him getting fascinated with his horrible histories. I think I have my dad to blame for some of the books that he got into, like Biggles. And, when my dad was reading those, they were probably, current novels. By the time I got to them and then Harley got to them, these were historical novels. We loved them for the history. His interest in cars, four-wheel drives and the outdoors. I think we can blame my brother for the row of Suzukis that you saw out there today. It all started, I'm thinking, back 1989,
Really?
1990.
You're going to start with 18?
When my brother brought home an absolute wreck of a 1976 LJ50 Suzuki that had once had a 3-cylinder 2-stroke in it and was now sporting a 1300 Corolla motor and running 750 16-inch tyres. All of the car people in the room know exactly what I'm talking about. And that's kind of where it started. I think counting from there, what are we up to, 9 or 10 that we've had in the family so far? Suzuki's, Emery's had his, Harley's had a few. I think these boys got their first one when they were 12 and 13. And used to run that one around the paddock. Harley has a love for God and for soul winning and for evangelism and literature evangelism, and these things are things that Harley and I have really shared together, which has been just, it's a real privilege. It's a very special privilege when your son follows in your footsteps, but when that's in ministry, that I think is even more special. And to see you grow in that ministry, I've probably mentioned this before, but Shell and I knew that Harley was called to ministry a couple of years before he did. And we were waiting for it and wondering when he would receive the call. And so it was very, very special for us when he called us up one day to tell us he'd been called to ministry. And that was absolutely amazing. And once again, when I look at my family and, I trace where I am today back to my father, who raised me to love God, and I've now been able to pass that on to my children, and that's been just an incredible blessing. So Harley, you've grown to be a man of God and a leader for God. Recently did the family tree, counted 11 pastors in the immediate vicinity, so you're in a good collection right there. And some of these men have been truly spiritual giants. Now I mentioned that these were some of the things that we shared and we had in common. One of those was Harley's interest in cars and four-wheel drives and the outdoors. One of the things that we don't have in common is his interest in cars, four-wheel drives and the outdoors. Harley went through this stage where he didn't want to go camping. And he's always had his interest in four-wheel drives. He has the DNA to be able to fix anything that goes wrong with his car, but absolutely zero interest in it. Kind of like, why would I spend my time doing this when I can pay somebody else to do it? He's the car guy in the family who has this innate ability behind the wheel, but zero interest in doing anything with the actual car itself. Of course, Harley vexed us with his vexillology. Some of you know what that is, probably only Harley. And that's his interest in maps. No, he didn't vex us. Vexillology, maps. And board games.
Flags. Flags, not maps.
Flags. Flags.
Oh, that's house.
Yes. And board games. I didn't really grow up with board games as a major part of my family. And the odd game of Monopoly, I think, was about all that we had back at that particular time. But Harley's really latched onto it. As an amateur memoir 44 scenario creator, he worked his way up to become number 2 in the world, behind the number 1, who was a Frenchman. And what was interesting was when Harley was doing a history research tour, went to Normandy in France, the number 1 in the world, who lives in Paris, came out to visit him and give him a personal tour of the beaches of Normandy, which was pretty special. And then, of course, Harley's riding a bike, because that's what you do when you're a poor student and you're travelling around the world and you can't afford a hire car. Hires himself a bike, riding through paddocks in Normandy, has this bizarre experience of being in Normandy because it's a major history buff. This is where the D-Day landings happen, and a Sherman tank comes driving past. That only happens to Harley, but anyway. One of the things I appreciated about Harley, in fact both of the boys, was how they have looked out for others, particularly in their school years, and really looked out for some of the, I guess, less well-accepted people, and made the opportunity of making them their friends. And the quality of a person in many ways can be gauged by the quality of the friends that they have. And when I look around this room here today, it makes me incredibly proud to have these boys as my sons, because they have such great friends. As their oldest in the family, it's been special to see Harley look out for his brother. And so we're so proud of the fact that they've become such great mates. I think they fought less than my brother and I did. But they are so incredibly different, as Emery pointed out. They're kind of like, in many ways, the two halves of me and their mother, and yet they're very close. Which is just amazing. Harley's the natural born leader, and as Emery pointed out, he used to organise all the kids and have them bossed around all over the place back in the day. But it's a very special privilege to watch a child grow into adulthood. And there is nothing greater than to see a child develop their own connection with God. And one of the things that I learned with that is that when your kid gets their own connection with God, it's very different from what you have. Because it's an individual connection. And in a way, it was there was a temptation to feel a little bit threatened by that, because you want it to be the same as what I've got. But when you realise that it's just good to see them grow as an individual, and that they're never going to be the same as you, and they're never going to have exactly the same connection you have, then that's just a special privilege. Yes, anyway, I need to move on to Eliza. You have no idea how happy it makes me to see how happy Harley is today. How happy you make him. Eliza, that's incredibly special. We've been getting to know Eliza over the last few months, and particularly over the last few weeks. I spent some time up here in Queensland and got to see how you two interacted. And I have honestly never seen Harley like this before. So you're an exceptional person. You mean the world to Harley. You hold a special place in our heart because you're the woman that makes our son really, really happy. In fact, it was kind of interesting while I was doing the wedding today. It kind of felt like I was doing the wedding for just both of my children. Because like my daughter was there as well. And you are my daughter now, and that's just our daughter. That's just incredibly, incredibly special. Harley's happiness is your doing, Eliza. I could not imagine a person more suited to Harley. Someone that can sit down and talk about history and be absolutely fascinated. That's not everybody's cup of tea. Now, I even noticed the other day that you were playing Memoir 44 with Harley. My wife is a great games person, and she'll play just about any board game or card game that there is out there and just have a fantastic time, but she never managed to go that far. So, well done, Eliza. A lot of my family is here and is meeting Eliza for the first time, and so if you and some of you others are Harley's friends. So if you don't know Eliza, I should share a few things about Eliza. You see, as parents, we have the right to brag about our children, and so I'm just going to brag here for a moment. She's an accomplished person. She speaks 5 languages. She plays 6 musical instruments. She has an honours degree in British colonial history from ANU, and she's probably read more books than I have, and I love reading. So she is a very, very special person, and that's fantastic. Eliza, out of all of that, your greatest quality is your selflessness. And I've seen that come through over and over again. And that's a quality that is going to make a marriage work. And that's a quality that really comes from God. And that's just a very, very special part of who you are. And I just want to say that Shell and I and our family, we just absolutely love you to bits. And we are so excited that you're a part of our family. And that, you know, as Southwells and the Mars, we can be related together through you guys. It's been fantastic to meet your family and to get to know all of them as well. And so, Eliza, welcome to the family. It's great to have you as as part of our family today. I don't think they've had any toasts yet, have we?
No. We should do that.
We should do that. Yeah, maybe you can charge your glasses.